Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome. This is the heavily orchestrated, never duplicated lyrical symphony known as the Eternal One Eternity, aka Mr. Everlasting, the Lyrical Assassin. We are sitting here live on the 2020 podcast. I got my man Jay. This is what we're about to do. True wrestling fans, true friends, we're just about to have a good time with this thing.
Hey, love it. Love the promo. Great. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of A Business Minute. I'm your boy, Sir, and today I got a special guest, the poet himself. Powerline's Poetry in the building again. Eternity of also Merciless Minds. Hey, I do my homework.
Hey, I appreciate that.
All right, brother. If you could, by the way, appreciate you coming through.
Hey, no, man, I appreciate you for having me.
And if you could, just tell the world what it is that you do.
All right, cool. Well, like you said, Merciless Minds, I am a hip hop spoken word artist. I'm also a production assistant. I do artist development, merchandising, the whole nine. So I am essentially the one-stop shop. K. Marie likes to call me the new Black Wall Street. And I never thought about it like that, but that's what I do. I do anything and everything that deals with entertainment, and primarily hip-hop and spoken word communities, though. So
I love that. And if I may ask, how long have you been active doing this?
15 years.
Whoa.
15 years. I started writing when I was 13, and I started recording professionally when I was 16. I started releasing my first pieces of music when I was 18. I'm 34 now. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I don't feel as old. Yes. All right.
Man.
All right. That's what's up. So, if I may ask, with getting your foot in with poetry, music, what really inspired you to start doing this?
Everything comes from, I don't want to say everything, but I started out writing short stories when I was probably like 10 or 11. I don't know where they came from. I was just a kid with an overactive imagination.
Okay.
And I would write some of everything.
So this was fiction.
Right. Yeah, it was just fiction, me just doing what I like to do. And I watched a lot of those Nickelodeon children's stories that, like the Are You Afraid of the Darks and things like that. And it was like, I could do that, but I don't necessarily want to write scary stories. I like the comics growing up, so I would write superhero tales, or I might write like a little horror story or something like that here and there. My grandfather was a jazz musician, and he had this routine where I spent the weekends with my grandparents and my weeks with my parents, for school. But he would always come get me on the weekend. I was his only grandchild at the time. And we knew every Sunday we went to church at 6 a.m. We were born and raised Catholic. So we go to church at 6 a.m., nice. Go to McDonald's afterwards. When I come home, I'm home by 7 o'clock in the morning. From 7 until noon, I am in my room because the jazz music is playing. And when the jazz music is playing, Granddad is cleaning the house. You don't come out the room until he is done cleaning the house.
All right.
And then, and to make a long story short, he passed away when I was 13. Oh. He passed away when I was in middle school, and he used to always encourage me. The short stories eventually started me turning into writing songs.
Okay.
About whatever, little silly childhood anecdotes or whatever the case may be, and he would always listen to them no matter how crazy they were. But I started writing the songs off of the jazz music that was playing in the house on Sundays.
Okay.
So that is how I really started to learn how to follow beats and getting the rhythm and doing things of that nature. And I would make little songs with my friends, and we would perform them for my grandparents and relatives and things of that nature. And before, it sounds like something out of a movie, but the last time that I got to see him when he was in the hospital, he told me that if there was anything that I knew I wanted to do in my life, never let anybody tell me that I couldn't do it, and I always stick with anything I felt passionate about. And I felt passionate about the music and the songs and the writing and so on and so forth. And from there, I met a couple of guys. No Limit was real hot.
Oh, yeah.
In my middle school years, and this is around that time.
Yeah.
96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
And I had group of guys that like during PE or lunch we'd be outside. Everybody would pick like the longest No Limit song possible. Everybody had a part.
Okay.
I was always mystical because I like to rap fast.
Oh man,
And,
that's a
yeah. I was like
Hey.
always the mystical in the group for the most part. And me and a couple of those guys started out actually writing songs and networking together. And I know I'm kind of going on about this one question,
sure, bro.
But it's so odd how those friendships and relationships build over time. Because keep in mind, we're 13 at this point. 13. Literally 12 and 13 years old. A talent show came about, and we decided we wanted to write an original song. So we wrote an original song. It was me and 4 other guys. And a drummer.
Okay.
The drummer is known to most of you out there is DJ Money Mike now.
Oh, snap.
So me and Money Mike literally have been doing music together for 20 plus years. He started out as a drummer in middle school for a group, and as time progressed and we started to get more serious about things that we were doing, he went from being just a drummer to producing to DJing. And I went from, oddly enough, in high school I was a DJ, and I went from writing and trying to get my foot in the door musically, and that was my foot in the door doing the DJ stuff, running a record pool for Mobile because we used to have one. Shout out to DJ Bull, put me on in that. And it's been a progression ever since, and it's just something I never stopped doing. So I have a true love for music in general, not just hip hop, but yeah.
That's you couldn't ask for any more, because if you were to be, I feel like if someone were to say, well, I just love hip hop, I feel like that's contradictory.
I do.
Because if you just love hip hop, you don't love where hip hop came from.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that.
Exactly.
And just like I normally tell everyone, bro, don't worry about time. This is your show.
Oh.
This is how I like you. You want to go down the rabbit hole, we will go down the rabbit hole.
All right, got you.
So I appreciate that. What middle school did you attend?
Phillips Prep.
Phillips.
Yep.
All right, man. Okay.
Yep.
Phillips Prep. Old shell. All right, then. All right. Now, over these 13 plus years, I'm gonna say you were paying your dues, because essentially that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
Getting your foot in the door. DJing, writing music, like we all did. Because, like you said, No Limit was the standard. Black owned.
Right.
Solely black owned.
Right.
And if I may nitpick a little bit here, I feel like when we talk about entrepreneurs, Master P does not get the respect that he deserves,
Or the credit.
nor the credit, because I feel like people hear entrepreneurs, oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, but Master P literally did it himself with his brothers. And I believe it was Snoop who did an interview, who was like, when I was signed to him, it wasn't a downgrade. I made more money with Master P than I did with anyone else.
Right.
And he taught me how to invest in myself and how to pass it along. I feel like people feel like they have to be paid in money to be rich. I feel like knowledge is the ultimate gift you could give someone. Exactly. Just like the analogy of teaching a man to fish.
Right.
So I'm not going to go down that road any further, but.
You good. I was going to say, I think, don't quote me on this because I don't remember for sure, but I remember when Master P first started rapping, he had an interview, I don't remember who, it might have been Universal or somebody like that, and they were trying to give him, I think, like $1 million or something like that, and he literally said to himself, well, if they think I'm worth $1 million, how much am I really worth?
I know that interview.
And man, like, I heard that interview and I was like, yo, that's stuck. And I come from a generation of artists where everybody wants to get signed. And it was all about getting signed, until you realize that if you really know what you're doing, you can do this on your own.
Yes, you can.
And turn out way better. So yeah,
right,
wholeheartedly.
And in response to that history lesson about Universal, the shady part of that a lot of people may not remember is right after that happened, Universal started plugging money into a smaller company in New Orleans called Cash Money.
Yep.
As competition. So,
right.
No disrespect to Cash Money or Birdman, but looking at it holistically, I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Use our own against us.
Right.
When, the originals don't conform. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So, that leads me to my next question.
Okay.
When paying your dues and everything that, you're on a high, were there any obstacles that you encountered along the way? Because 13 years is a long time.
Plenty. Plenty. The thing about being young and having ideas is that there's always somebody that feels like they know better.
Yes, sir.
And that was probably one of the biggest things that I had to deal with. My uncle was my manager. He served as a really, really inspirational piece, really, really helpful piece. He actually passed away this past January.
Sorry.
And it's life. It happens. Unexpected, but it was one of the things where he taught me a lot on the business side.
Okay.
And I used to mess with him all the time. I say, I really wish you would just listen to me, because I felt like a lot of stuff I was ahead of my time on. I had a song on my first album called Shake, and it wasn't loud, it wasn't boisterous, it was real chill. And the engineer at the time and one of the producers and my uncle, they was like, yeah, I think you should re-record that. It don't have enough energy, it don't have enough whatever. So I re-recorded it because I'm not paying for this. Other people had their money invested. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do what you do. But I like it this way. Right. I just want to say that for the record. 6 months later, a little song called The Whisper Song drops by the Yin Yang Twins.
Man.
Then David Banner drops Play.
Yep.
And they become two of the biggest hip hop songs in that time. I literally had a song that had that same chill, mellow vibe, and I was just like, y'all gonna listen to me from now on. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you were right. But getting back to the original question at hand, when you talk about obstacles, all in all, it's just learning. Right. As much time as I spent around where we talked about the record pool and DJs and things of that nature, I learned part of the business side from that aspect. But as an artist, I would go to these, music conference, pay this price, meet these people, do this thing. I probably invested over $4,000 in music conferences, or to sign up to go perform at this or have the chance to perform in front of these people. And they literally, it's almost like they had a script. They would say pretty much the same thing, and then it'd be like, okay, we'll be in touch, and then you never hear from them. I actually got scammed out of a music conference that was backed. They look legit. They look legit. To the point where radio stations were backing them, radio personalities were backing them. It had it at like a hotel here, the whole nine. It was like, yeah, you got to pay this amount now, and to secure your spot, because spots are limited. And then when you went to call the phone number that they asked you to call, it was a fake phone number. It was disconnected. Man. They probably got out of Mobile that day with about $25,000. Kid you not. They probably got away from Mobile with about $25,000 from artists that just, like
hungry.
That were hungry.
Yeah.
But they look legit. To the point where they had an entire presentation where the conference was on a PowerPoint with video footage and performers and performances performing in front of thousands of people in like this oversized like stadium type. It looked real, you know what I mean? And it was actually the inspiration that pushed me to start my own stuff. And I would have to say just learning how to discern the real from the fake was probably my biggest obstacle in terms of the music, in terms of the poetry.
All right.
Because there's two sides to this. In terms of the poetry, I felt like I was the outcast because a lot of people took me more seriously as a rapper, or they thought of me as, oh, he's a rapper trying to do poetry.
Oh, okay.
Even though I loved both. I had been writing poetry just as long as I had been writing music. But you know, when it came time to do shows, like I was hosting shows at like 18, 19.
Wow.
When I got back to Mobile, you know, like I knew Huggy, but I'm gonna tell you another guy that a lot of people don't talk about is Alfred Ward. He's doing some more stuff with like his film company. He just released like a new film with Tech Magic, but Alfred Ward is one of the most talented individuals I know. Dude does comedy, he does poetry, he makes films, he does everything, man. And you know, like that's my brother through and through. And I met him when I first came back, introduced me to a guy named Q, and he had a spot downtown called Chemistry.
Okay.
It was black owned. It's actually where, you know where O'Daly's is downtown?
Mm-hmm.
So those two buildings that they extended to, the beer bar and the daiquiri shop.
Yes.
Those two buildings were Chemistry.
Okay, on the end there.
On the end. Those two buildings were Chemistry. You had the bar side, then he did shows on the other side.
Yeah, okay.
And I just ended up meeting people through various networks, told them what I did, told them what I was trying to do. I started hosting, you know, like poetry shows. Started out, I don't even want to say slow, because we weren't doing them but maybe like 2 to 3 times a year. And while there were open mics around, no one was doing like production style shows.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things that I would do. We had like structured formats style shows. And I remember it was called One Mic. And I just remember doing, I think it was the second one. It was probably like 150 people.
Whoa.
In one side of this bar.
That's what I'm, to those of you who are listening, I say comfortably you could get probably about 80, 85 comfortably. It's a shotgun. It is a real shotgun space. But it was, I don't know, it just being in that environment is what drove me to want to not just perform, but to facilitate too. Right.
You know, but once again, it comes with those obstacles, you know, because we're talking about obstacles of being young, of people not thinking that you really know what you're doing, or you don't have as much experience. But what people will fail to realize is that from the time I was 16 to the time I was 19, I was DJing, I was helping put on shows, I was networking, meet and greets, doing all of this type of stuff. You know, when the Scream tour was popping, I was Mario's runner when they came to Mobile.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's like I was watching and learning how things like this have to be done, and then taking that same information and just applying it to a smaller scale. But it's hard to explain that to somebody that only looks at age, and they don't feel like the youth has that experience.
Right.
So I would say those are probably some of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome, is just knowing too much from where I was at the time, and trying to get people to understand that, you know, kind of know what I'm doing, but I need a chance to show you that I can do it. So, yeah.
I can appreciate that. And on both ends, looking at it, you have this young kid wanting to run the show.
Right.
So I can understand that, but at the same time, to make an analogy, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Not everything is as it appears on the outside. Just like the situation, unfortunately, with the scam.
Yeah.
It looked like it was professional, but
Right.
it wasn't. But in this case, we got this young kid that looked like he's a kid, but we got a full possible future mogul right here,
Right.
you know, who knows how to organize, structure, like you said. And that's new. You know, most open mics are just, okay, who wants to come up? Right. You know, did you sign the list? But to hear that you were putting, you know, when I hear structure, I think this is how this is going to go. This person will go here. We'll take a break here. This person will have X amount of time to make sure it goes smoothly. Like, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, to go back to your beginning, if you're passionate about something,
Right.
you'll put that effort into it. So I can appreciate that. I really can. And if I may make a side note back to the scam, I appreciate you sharing that. The reason I say that, and I'll come back to this in a later question,
Okay.
it's tough to be candid about stuff like that nowadays. because it's not a loss; it's a learning, situation.
Right.
As long as you got a lesson out of it, you didn't lose.
Yeah, there you go.
Financial is a different issue, but,
Right.
but as long as you got a lesson out of it that you can share, you didn't lose. You just came up in a different way. So my next question is a little bit more of a personal question.
Go ahead.
And this is something I struggle with personally. I say this on every interview. Okay. So how do you find that balance between work and personal life?
That's a good question. Not enough, if I'm being honest. I invest so much of myself into other people that I don't take enough time for myself. And I'm learning how to get back to that more, how to get back to me more. But that balance is difficult.
Yes.
The balance is difficult when if you have 50 million visions, you got 50 million ways that you're thinking about how to accomplish this. And sometimes the easiest thing for us to do is to sit back, slow down, stop for a second, and go, why are you overthinking this so much?
Right.
I personally struggle anxiety and depression a lot. It's more so over the last 7 years. I started doing morning haikus at the beginning of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because when writing music or writing poems, a lot of times I would go, oh man, I gotta write this, I need to do this, I got a deadline for this, I got this in my mind that I want to do, but I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
Right.
The haikus became a practice to keep my mind sharp.
Okay.
Because if I am applying myself, even if it's for 15 seconds in the morning to come up with something, I need to do something every day to practice my craft. And that's how the haikus started. And
cool.
I eventually went from just meaningless haikus, trying to do something, to allowing my haikus to express how I felt about the day before, or if I had an event going on, something creative. Because as long as I kept my creative juices flowing, I would never feel stuck. We get in this phase of writer's block too often that we become so frustrated that we take ourselves out of the game before we even get in. And that's the haikus keep me in the game.
Right.
I don't care if I don't write but one and make my awake, elevate, motivate status. I might not be on Facebook for the rest of the day. But I do it just because repetition, exercise is discipline. Discipline is important in everything that we do in our daily lives.
Very much.
And that kind of started to create, it helped to create personal balance, I guess you could say, within myself, but trying to learn how to convert that to an outside source is still something that I struggle with. The few off days that I do get, I try to do stuff that I enjoy doing, or just, indulge myself in anything that I feel like is non-work related. Anything that I feel like is enjoyable, anything that I like that's fun, I invest in it. I invest myself into it. More importantly, my time. I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about time, because time is a resource we cannot get back.
Exactly, the most valuable.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I don't care if I hop in the car, I go to Pensacola, and I sit in the sand for 2 hours and just look at the ocean. That's 2 hours of time to myself that I didn't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and possibly not Saturday. So while I'm still learning to balance that work, that work personal life, I'm finding ways slowly to kind of get back to me, and it's helped. It's helped a lot. It's a struggle, but it has helped tremendously. With just trying to get a peace of mind, really.
Right.
Right. That's what's important.
Yeah, that pursuit of happiness factor is, and I agree with you. I think it's funny. I always hear, and I listen to a bunch of podcasts, man. I listen to them all day long. I listen to Joe Rogan in particular.
Okay.
He's been a martial artist. A lot of people think he's just a commentator, but he's been a martial artist for well over 40 years.
Okay.
He talks about the parallel with martial arts is an art, and that discipline in art he can relate to musicians, poets, comedians, because it's something that you have to refine continuously. Correct. If you don't practice it every day, even the basics.
Right.
He made an analogy of katas. Katas are where you practice stances. It's a series of them. You refine yourself. Okay. And he mentioned that he does it frequently just to keep himself sharp. And I realized that's why he has these great interviews, because he relates to the next man, the person who tells jokes. They're constantly keeping a joke in pocket, how they can refine the pocket. Where you have a producer, they're constantly listening to the beat a million times. Is it on point? How can I mix it up? Poetry, you're constantly sharpening your blade. It's the same exact respect with discipline that refines you and makes you whole. And I ask that question because anyone who says they found that balance is in danger of losing that balance because you're comfortable.
True.
So that's why I asked that question.
No, man, that is perfectly explained. That is perfectly explained.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that brings me to my next question.
Okay.
Over you doing music, poetry. I'm going to say music is in your blood. I'm going to be honest with you. When you told me about your granddad, music's in your blood, bro. Yeah. So what would you say has been like your most memorable experience of all these years? 34 years, bro. If you had to pick one.
I got to open for Bone Thugz-N-Harmony.
Whoa.
In Pensacola. And so Busy Bone is actually coming to Pensacola, I think like in a month. And I wanted to try to open that show, but I'm not. But I'm still gonna go, just because when I first started writing music, Bone Thugz-N-Harmony were at that time probably the most influential artists to me. It was just something about the combination of these guys' styles that related to me and the group that I was making music with at the time. I identified most with Busy Bone. Okay. He was always like, that guy to me. I liked his harmony. I liked his style. I liked to rap fast. He was a fast rapper.
I was gonna see if you was gonna get there.
He was a fast rapper. But when I was full circle, when I was 16, my bad. When I was 16, I got to meet him, my uncle, the same uncle that was my manager. Okay. Took me to a Sam Goody in Pensacola. Whoa. To meet him. To show you how big of a fan I was, there was a guy that was a lookalike. I thought it was him. And I'm about to start hyperventilating. And I mean, when I tell you he looked like him, hair like him, had a Mo Thugz chain on that was so big and so diamond encrusted, it looked legit. I'm 16, I don't really know no better. But I mean, I thought it was him. And he was like, yo, bro, I'm not him. I'm just a fan like you. Wow. But I think I was like third in line and he was in the front. He was like, nah, dude, you need to be up here. So when he first came out, I met him. I got to rap to him. I rapped one of his verses to him. And he was like, I'm gonna need you to go somewhere before you put me out of business. And I knew he was joking, but I always took that as a sign. Right. I took that as a compliment. I still have the photos that we took together, when I was 16. And my biggest thing for wanting to try to open for him was because he wasn't at the show I got to open for Bone. And I took the photos with me to that show, being a fan, and being professional about it too. But I just wanted to be like, yo, I know you don't remember me because it's been 20 years, but I just wanted to show you this picture and to tell you what you told me and why I still make music today. And, but getting back to, you talk about like the most surreal experience, that was probably it for me. Just because they played such a huge part in my early development as an artist. And you know, it wasn't just being on stage and then going off. Like after the show itself, all the artists that opened, we were all in the VIP with them.
Whoa, that's cool.
So I actually got to Crazy's, I think it was his aunt or somebody had just passed, and then Busy was dealing with something, so neither one of them could make it. But it was Lazy, it was Flesh, it was Wish, it was like the DJ, a couple of other people. And you know, like I got pictures with Lazy and Flesh and Wish and the DJ and a couple of their brothers, and you know, it was so funny because Wish was like, well, you were one of the guys performing earlier, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, which one were you? And I told him, you know, one of the lines, he was like, oh, yo, he was like, I heard that beat from up here. He was like, I was trying to hear what you were saying, but I heard the beat, it made me open the door. And he was like, yo, you got a product? I was like, yeah. He was like, man, go give me a product, go give me a CD or whatever. And I mean, nothing came out of it, but still, that meant, you know, that meant something to me.
Wow.
As an artist, that was probably one of my greatest performing moments. And then just as a fan of music in general, I've been a fan of Maya since I was a kid. And the only time I ever had the opportunity to try to see her in concert, I was a freshman in college. And the show got canceled 2 days beforehand.
No.
Well, she came to Pensacola. I still had a... I feel silly for saying this, but it's candid. I still had a shrink wrap copy of Mood Ring, her third album from 2003.
All right.
And, you know, I paid for the VIP meet and greet ticket, the whole nine, whatever. Got to meet her, took a photo with her. I pulled that Mood Ring thing out, and she couldn't do nothing but laugh. She tripped. She was like, are you serious? She's like, I hadn't seen this album in forever.
Wow.
But she autographed the shrink wrap copy and then autographed the calendar because the calendar came with it.
Okay.
She autographed the calendar separately. She signed like 6 things for me and talked to me for a little while. And that was probably my greatest experience as a fan of music. So a little bit, you know, here and there, but.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay. So with your experience with Busy and the information he gave you,
okay,
and now when you were 16 being able to perform, it puts you in that mindset of sending you all the way back to that first interaction. Okay. Do you think you kind of created that situation with her with bringing back something from her third album that she hadn't seen? You know, being an artist,
yeah,
you know,
it's she was celebrating the 21st anniversary of her first album, like literally like a week after that show, and she had performed a couple of the songs that were on Mood Ring, and so we kind of got to talking and stuff like that. And I asked her, and she was just like, I meet a lot of fans, and I get up and meet a lot of people that say that they are huge fans. She was like, but people don't understand that as an artist, it gets, and this is what we talked about. She said, as an artist, it's sometimes difficult to imagine how we impact people.
Right. And
it is difficult to remember the types of people that we impact and the things that we leave, you know, so on and so forth. She was like, so to see that you actually held on to this for this many years and never touched it, it's just amazing that you had that type of dedication to me as an artist. She was like, so it's appreciated, which is why she didn't mind signing like 6 things for me. But yeah, man, I mean, it was I think so. I think those experiences, no matter how big you get, things like that humble you. Right. And they bring you back down to reality. You know, just because it's some things that you might have forgotten about, but your fans don't. Right. So I think that's what it's more about. So
I love that. Bring you back to where it began. Well, not necessarily began with the third album, but still, everyone's focused on this anniversary of the first. But here is a project that you did that was your third one that's still just as important. Right. You know, and you celebrated that with her. That's dope. That's dope. That's attention to detail. I like that. All right. So my next question is a little bit inverse of this.
Okay.
So for every high, there's a low.
Sure.
And you can't climb a mountain without starting at the valley first. But just keep it 100.
Right.
So at any point in time, did you feel that you wouldn't be successful? And if that was the case, who or what changed your mind?
So yes, indubitably.
All right.
There have been quite a few moments. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about, earlier in the interview. And I kind of wanted to, I figured we would cycle back around to it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first single came out in 2004. And it was all over the radio. It was doing really, really well, so on and so forth. So much so to the point where I was focused on getting the album out as soon as I could. Dropped another single in 2005. I was done with the album in 2006. My management held the album for 2 years.
Oh.
Because they felt like, I don't know. I don't know if they felt like there was more to be done, or if there was, I can't tell you why. I don't really know. But, I literally had, for almost 2 years, I had 2 to 3 songs that were being played on the radio, really, really heavy. I feel like if the album would have dropped in 2006 when it was done, it would have done substantially better than it did. Album dropped in 2008, still did well, but the structure and the buzz that was so hot at the time had died down. So it was one of those things where a lot of record stores, we still had FYE here, they were doing consignment deals. And we did a lot of business with FYE. So much so to the point where I think we hit like number 2 or number 3 on their top 20. And this was around the same time like Eminem's, I think Marshall Mathers LP had dropped or something like that. It was only behind like an Eminem record and I think an Outkast record for their local store. And then it was like me and like a ton of other people that were making way more money than I was at that moment. And I say that to say it was that time that I felt like it was gonna be difficult for me to come back. Just because all that buzz that I had, it was gone. And it was like, how do I recapture that?
Right.
And it was really, really hard for me to recapture that. It was hard for me to get back in that loop. I tried going to record like a single that around that time, Snap Movement was real hot.
Oh man.
So I tried to go record some type of dancey, line dance type thing. It was fun, but that's not me.
Right.
And it didn't click. And people liked the song, but it wasn't me. It just wasn't me.
What's the name of the track?
It was called Bobble Rock.
Bobble Rock.
It's somewhere. I don't. You can't find it on nothing because we never actually released it.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we ever fully released it.
Okay.
We did a lot of promo behind it. Track was hot. Everything was good. It just wasn't me, and it wasn't in the moment, and it just didn't fit. And then everything kind of died down for a couple of years. Because once again, my uncle was my manager. At that point, he was having kids. His kids were getting a little bit older. He was having to raise family, play manager, play this, do this, do. Well, I don't say play, but be a manager, be a father, be this, be that. And it was taking time away from the duties as my manager to raise a family. Exactly. And can't be mad at that. I mean, that's family. Family always comes first in my eyes. But we talking about from 2004 to 2006 when I had records popping to from 2008 to 2011 not really having anything going on. And we actually had contracts. My contract was coming to an end. And I had one more project that I needed to release. So I did it myself. I made all the beats. It was a combination of poetry and music. Had some stuff that I just wanted to get off my chest, but it wasn't like bad stuff. It was just different. I decided to take a risk and do something different because I had full creative control.
Oh, wow.
And my first video that I ever shot, I shot off a handheld camera in an alley downtown. It was called Schizophrenic. And it's one of those pieces where I could do as a poem or a song. And people liked it. It was just funny to me that we literally was walking downtown one day. It was kind of drizzling. I was like, man, you know what? We should shoot a video in this alleyway. They was like, what? I was like, yeah, come on. And we did it. And it worked. It's still on YouTube. Like, you can find it.
Well, I will look.
Yeah, like the audio's a little off on the end, but it speaks to the times that we were in at that moment.
See the artist in you right there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So the original contract that I had was from 6 to 11.
Okay.
When that contract was officially done, is when I was in limbo for about 6 months, and I was like, I can't let this die because I love it too much. And that's when I started Merciless Minds. Merciless Minds was built from failed attempts prior to what I was doing at that moment. And everything I do, I try to keep meaning in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you remember me telling you about the middle school group.
Yes.
So it was No Limit Soldiers. We were the Southside Soldiers. We were the DS3. We had $3 in all of our name. It was all the S's were S's. All the S's were $. So I kept that element. I used to go by Mr. Mercenary. MER $ENARI.
Okay.
So, and this was way before I became Eternity. I needed something more universal. Eternity was just better. Which also comes from my grandfather. When we talked about never giving up on your dreams, the literal definition of eternity is time after death. So when he passed, I changed my name to Eternity. And I put the I on it. So
I love that.
Fast forward, I wanted to try to keep elements of everything that made me to that point. So it's the reason that we spell Merciless, MER $ILESS. MERSI, because it was mercenary with an I, no Y's. I kept that for the eternity. Me and my boy NY, the fly guy, he's in South Carolina, another one of my original partners I've been making music with forever, 20 plus years. That's my bro. We were calling ourselves the Masterminds, with a $ as the S and kept the Z on the end. So when it came time for me to start a company, I was just like, Mr. Mercenary, Masterminds, 4 M's, put the $ in the middle. MSM makes a cross, because that's, what I'm saying, the loyalty for what we do. Merciless for mercenary, the minds as being one half of the Masterminds. But I didn't want to make it records, because we were trying to do more than records. Because at that point, I was making beats.
Why limit yourself?
Exactly. So instead of Merciless Minds Records, we became Merciless Minds Productions. And it gave me a focal point to do anything from flyers to shows to producing to performing to anything. And that's how Merciless Minds.
I gotta applaud.
That's how Merciless Minds was born. But that time in between 2008 and 2011, it was dark. As far as music wise, I didn't know if it would ever take. I didn't know if people would ever catch on. I didn't know if it had just passed me. And I was like, I'm gonna give this one more shot. And the first album I released under Merciless Minds was Illusion. And I produced the entire record. Recorded the record, the whole 9, because I had took all my money to invest in the startup. So it was like, I can't pay for beats. I'm gonna make them.
Right.
I'm gonna write my songs. I'm gonna pay for some studio time, pay for some graphics. Let's push it. And style change. I was older. I needed to make older music. And the one thing I've always appreciated about what I do, I try to evolve in all my music from album to album. The older I get, the more mature my subject matter becomes, the more around about it, it is. I can't make the same music at 34 I can make at 18.
Right.
Don't work.
It doesn't.
It's unrelatable.
Right.
It's unrelatable. So yeah, that's when we shot the video for Name Brands, that's really what made me go, yeah, I think I got something. And turned around, produced an EP literally 7 months right after the album dropped. And that's where I wrote it in 2 days. It was like 7 tracks. Had some fun doing it because I tried so hard to make an album that was radio ready that I was like, this isn't fun. I want to go have some fun in my music. So that's what made me do the mystery mixtape. Okay. That's where Mr. No Days Off came from.
Okay.
That's where, you know, the 9/11 joke, that's where Turn Me Up came from. And those records, they was like, you should have put these on the album. Well, I didn't have this mindset for the album. I just made this music for me. This music was fun, and I gave it to y'all.
Y'all just happened to be here.
Yeah, you're right. It's like I gave it to y'all. And man, like, I had to retire some of them songs because people wanted me to perform them everywhere I went. I don't care if they heard them a million times. But to me, if I'm constantly writing new music, I can't always perform the same songs I was doing 6 years ago.
Right.
You know, I'm talking 2012. It's 2019.
Yeah.
If we're doing a big show, I might go back and give y'all a verse from something like that. But I make new music for y'all to listen to new music. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I love that. And what's funny, I was going to bring this up.
Go ahead.
But a few months back, I want to say it might have been, I have to look at my phone. I actually came and saw you perform at the Blind Mule. Okay. It was a few months back. It was you, Fat Bastard Jay, and there was a few other brothers who performed. But I remember Jay Haynes was there as well. I'm trying to remember what month that was. I think it was earlier this year. It might have been last year. Yeah, because and I had never been to the Blind Mule, so I was like, oh, they got something going on. Why not go? And it was free. I was like, let's do it. You know.
Probably. So I do a mic check block party in December. It was probably that because I had FBJ. What it is I try to do almost like I turned the mic check that was a poetry show into a hip hop show. Right. And I try to do them about 4 times a year. And what I'll do normally is I'll try to always bring maybe like 1 or 2 new people. And then it's what I like to consider my alumni night. So I bring back everybody that's rocked with me through the year. And we just open it up and you make donations. And everything we do is for donation. You know, I love what I do. I want to make money off of it, but I want to make money off of what I do, not off of other people's talents. Right. I'm not one of those, well, you got to pay me to perform here, you got to pay, that's not what this is about. I want to give you a space to apply your trade. But that's probably what it was. It was probably the mic check block party because there were a lot of us that night. It was probably 7 or 8 performers.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. We tried to stay for most of it, but I had to go to work the next day.
I get you.
I was so impressed by it. Now, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I actually recorded you because you did a track with another gentleman. I can't remember his name, but y'all performed, and I recorded y'all and put it on Instagram. Okay. And people was like, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Okay. And I was like, I need to message this dude and get an interview. So I low-key became a fan that day. That's what's up. I looked up Merciless Minds. I was like, okay. Oh, so it's more than just him. Okay, and so I'm looking at the names. I'm like, okay. I'm going to catch up to him. And then, the album come out. And I was like, okay, let me reach out to him. I knew you was busy. So I was just like, he'll get back to me, when he can, because you were out of town. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna strategically, you gotta forgive me for this. I'm gonna strategically show Kara's interview everywhere around him, and then I'm gonna message him. And it worked. You hear?
Hey. Yeah, no, man, that's family. That's another one I've been doing for a long time.
All right, brother. And it's funny. This world is too small. Yeah. This Mobile is too small. I met K. Marie through Raina. Okay. I talked to K. Marie, interviewed her. I love interviewing people that love their craft. It ain't always about owning a business. If you love what you do or got something that you're enjoying, I want to highlight it because I love doing this. Right. So it's kind of like osmosis. What feels good for you feels great for me. Right. So she talked about the story about someone she was taking photos of and experienced this horrible incident, and it brought her to tears, and I felt her. And so I was like, what is this girl's name? She told me. It took almost a year to find her, but I found Kara. And from the time I opened the door, she lit up my room. Like she, oh man, positive, smiling, laugh. Her and her gentleman was with her.
Okay.
And I was just like, man, is she always this bubbly? Like, because just looking at her, again, appearances are always what they seem. From looking at her, I was like, man, she might not be as open because, you know, she don't know me. But she was like, hey, gave me a hug and everything. I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it. You're talkative. I love it. Right. So I love that I'm getting to interact with all of you.
That's cool.
Because I moved back 2 years ago. I used to live here. I graduated from high school. I went all the way to Huntsville. Okay. After 15 years, it seems like, I came back and didn't know anybody. Right. And so I was like, well, I really see all this talent here because I have family members that are in music, people I love, people I grew up with that's doing music. Maybe they could kind of introduce me to the scene now. And I go to a random party, get all this awesome music, and I'm like, I gotta get these people. Like, people need to know that Mobile is doing this. Because, I'm not gonna go any further with that, but brother, it's like, it's so much positivity going on. It's so much art here in Mobile. Like Kyra said, we can be the next New Orleans. We can be the next Atlanta. We have it here. Right. It just put it out there. You know, people need to know. And this is how I'm using my platform to do. Just like you use your platform.
It's appreciated. It's appreciated more than you probably realize. And the thing about it is that a lot of people don't have the media to back up what they need to do. So you are a service to the community the same way anybody else provides a service. You know, the poetry, like, you know, we talk about poetry being therapy, you know, things like that. And you never know who needs to hear it. Another thing about the haikus and like, you know, the motivation. I didn't realize, I started doing so before the haikus, I do like the Awake, Elevate, Motivate thing. Right. I've been doing that for probably about 5-6 years now. That came out of a necessity for me to change my intro. Mantra, was it? No joke. You know, for all the stuff that I did previous, I always had this, ladies and gentlemen, like that was my thing. And I was just like, I'm kind of getting tired of doing this. I've been doing it for about 10 years. And I don't even remember what I was doing. I just remember I might have been in a writing process or something, and I woke up one morning and like, I'm a hookah guy, like cigars and stuff like that. I just remember waking up one morning, like grabbing some tea and chilling. Like, I made my hookah, got my book, and I literally sat down and I was just like, started writing, and in something I was writing, I literally wrote, I awake, I elevate, I motivate. And I was just like, that's it. Like, that is a, like you said, it's a mantra. You know what I mean? And it went from, I put it on the status one day and people were like, good morning. Right. So I started doing it every day. I didn't realize people paid attention to that until I think I got sick and I didn't post anything for like 3 days. And I had 15 inboxes going, hey, are you alive? Are you okay? What's going on? I really thank you for this. I missed this. You hadn't posted in the day. And I was just like, well, yeah, I've been sick. Oh, are you okay? Da-da-da. I knew when you hadn't posted your morning message, even if it's later than usual, you still try to post it. And it's little stuff like that keep me going. That made me want to do that. Because once again, we talk about you in the podcast and providing a source for artists like myself, or poets, or musicians, or, you know, painters, or whoever, to be visually seen by individuals who may never know we exist. Right. But now they'll know we exist because of you. And I mean, it's appreciated. You know what I mean? Like, so if no one gives you your flowers, I'm giving you your flowers now, because you are a tremendous asset to our community. So you appreciate it too, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. All right. That messed me up. Messed up my fly. I usually have my next question transition ready.
My bad.
But nah, you knocked my bullets out my gun there. But my next question is what I call the long-term question. Okay. Now, I apologize. I normally send these questions way in advance to give you time to think about this one. But this one, if you need a moment, I'll edit it out.
You get it.
So, where would you like to see yourself? As an artist, as Eterniti, Merciless Minds, everything encompassing in 1 year, 3 years, and 10 years?
1 year would definitely be to advance this new phase of music that we're doing right now, as well as poetry. Because the thing, I love being an artist, but I also like doing other things. The shirt that I have on, it's my duo shirt, Novocaine, my man Miles Beto. Dude is insanely talented. Doesn't realize how talented he is. And I am a fan. We had a show last night in Pensacola, and the guy was like, I like Novocaine Eterniti, because Novocaine Eterniti looked like he having fun all the time on stage. And I told him, and I said what I think, and I said, he brought that out of me. Because dude is super chill. Like, he don't get mad at nothing. He is just like ultra laid back. His whole vibe screams, like just sit back, chill, retreat, take life a day at a time, relax. As somebody who has anxiety, depression, and is high strung,
right?
He is. It's like yin to the yang in the group.
Right. Balance.
You know what I mean? Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So I had to slow down what I felt was the aggressiveness in my music to figure out how to complement what he was doing to make this record. And so I say that to say 1 year from now, I'm hoping to do more Novocaine music. I'm hoping that he has a personal project out, as well as I've talked a lot about, Eterniti as an individual, but Eterniti is also a support system. Merciless Minds is a family. It's not my company. K. Marie do this to me all the time, and I'm gonna say this on camera. We would talk about stuff. She'd be like, "Okay, boss," and I'd be like, "I'm not your boss. I'm not your boss." Okay, boss, I'm not your boss. When I developed Merciless Minds was meant to give people a platform, and for me to be able to assist, which is why she calls me Black Wall Street. It was built for me to be able to assist people in all walks. So Power Lines Poetry is essential to Merciless Minds. K. Marie Photography is essential to Merciless Minds. As far as the artists, we've got songwriters, we've got models, we got photographers, we got videographers. My friend Sharonda Harris, I've been knowing her for 20-some years. She literally is licensed cinematographer, went to USC for it. She shoots a lot of my videos, a lot of my more recent videos. Amazing human being, amazing person, very, very talented. She owns a company called Lanyap Cinemas. Like, literally, I wanted Merciless Minds to be, people could call me and go, "Hey, I need this," and I could go, "Cool, see them." "Hey, I need this," go see them. "Oh, you need to shoot a video? Okay, well, I got somebody that can shoot photos for you of your video. I got somebody that can shoot your video. I've got 3 models. If you need more, they could probably find some more. If you need somebody to make this beat, if you need somebody to write this song, we are a hub."
I love that.
And we are family. And that is what Merciless Minds is bigger than me. It's not just me. And it is named appropriately because everybody that I work with is hungry. Everybody has their own unique talents that they bring to the table, and everybody is ruthless in their approach because they're hungry and they're passionate and they love what they do and they want it. So a year from now, I want to see more than just Eterniti, records and poetry. I want Catharsis to have a new album.
Hey,
I want,
shout out to Ross.
I want Butter So Fly to have her album. I want, Mr. I'm Just Being Honest, or Celeste Written, or Ray Dub, The Life Changer, or Hayes or Diction Canary. I want everybody that wants to do what they want to do to be at least on the path to get it done. And I want to be able to help them in that goal. 3 years from now, I'm hoping that I'm not Jay-Z, so I'm finna retire and I'm finna do this and I'm finna do that. But I feel like 3 years from now, hopefully I'll be, in the phase of starting a family or something. I'm getting older. So the reason that I want to start this whole, future plan is so that I can eventually have people that can carry themselves and only come to me when they need me. And you saying 10, I'm trying to be 5, but the long-term plan, the long-term plan is for Merciless Minds to legitimately be just a fully functional entity. I want to work for myself, point blank period. I want to be able to have that work-life balance. I want to be able to spend time with a family. I want to be able to go on a vacation when I need to. I want to be able to do the things that God gave me the talents to do, to work for themselves. And me not spend this invaluable resource of time that I can't get back to some. I'm tired. Eventually you just get tired of giving that to people. Because a lot of these companies, man, if God forbid, if I drop dead tomorrow, they're gonna have somebody in my office the next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So ultimately my goal is to leave a lasting impression and a lasting I keep using the word entity, but that's what it is. I just when it's all is said and done, I want to leave a legacy for whatever I do. I don't want to just be a poet. I don't want to just be a rapper. I don't want to just be anything. I want people to be like, he made a difference.
There you go.
And that's all that matters to me. You know what I mean? If when I first started doing music and I first started writing poetry, I always said that if one person heard one record and it changed their life for the better, my job was done. Period. I love to perform. I love to do music. I love to do poetry. But ultimately, the most rewarding thing to me, it's cool to get paid in money. It's cool to get the monetary, and it's cool to do all of that. But ultimately, when people come up to me and they go, you said this, it changed my life, or it changed. That sounds dramatic, but I'm not gonna harp on this because I've been talking a lot. No, but I do want to say this. So before we went to the show yesterday, really hard week. Really glad to be sitting down with you, talking to you about this stuff, because this is what I love. I met a guy, which I don't consider myself a facilitator much in any means, but I've kind of become one when it comes to booking shows and things like that. I had a guy that came through, performed at the Blind Mule a couple of months ago. He was on the tour. He was just trying to find a place here. Super light crowd. In my mind, I'm going, I really wish I could have had more people to support what you was doing. Dude's got dope set up, dope delivery. He's real different, kind of comedy aspects of what he does. But he's a rapper. He's a hip hop artist. And I would say manager. I don't know if she's a manager or if she's just, a friend. The person that contacted me about bringing him to Mobile and getting a date she DM'd me and was like, he had a lot of positive things to say about me. I ain't talked to this dude since he left, except maybe to say, hey, thanks for coming through. Sorry I couldn't get more people for you, so on and so forth. And I have a pose that I do in a lot of my pictures. It looks like a salute, but it's like a little hand gesture. I always do this, but I always do this. I hold it up to my face like this for two reasons. One, when we talked about the Southside Soldier, the DS3 thing earlier, like this was our symbol. We used to do this, and it was just closed or whatever. So I started doing this. Well, like I consider it third eye open, okay. And he was asking me about it. He was just like, hey, what's this? And I was just telling him, I was like, it's just kind of something I started doing, and it's just what I do. Well, apparently, for the rest of his tour, every time he would come into something that made sense, or he looked at it in a different way, he would always reference the third eye open conversation. I was just talking. Much like I'm talking to you right now. Because, I mean, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, that's what I do, I talk. But when she told me that, I was just like, what? And she was just like, yeah, you know, she said he had a line in a song or something like that. It was like, he was probably talking about the salute thing that I do, but I literally said it in passing, but it stuck. Things like that make me love what I do, period.
It's funny. This whole conversation seemed to have like a recurring theme, inadvertently, people, if you listen to this interview, of basically things coming full circle in a way, and things not appearing as they seem, and lasting impressions. What Busy Bone did for you, you kind of indirectly did that for him now.
It seems like it. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah. That's funny.
Right.
That's funny.
Right. Man, like making waves, and I always talk about this, and when I try to explain this to people, it comes off as morbid, but it's the truth. We're all going to pass from this earth one day.
Right.
And I've lost a lot of family members in the last 2 years, so I have a huge understanding on that.
Yeah.
When that happens, you have two ways you can go about it. You can accept the inevitability of it. Shout out to Thanos. You can accept it, or you can live in that denial. But if you embrace the concept of death, is that you have a set date, a set amount of days, a set amount of times you're going to open your eyes. You value every moment you have.
Right.
Therefore, legacy, like you were saying, is important. When I'm gone, what did I do?
Right.
How did I change this area? How did I leave my footprint? And I talk about that all the time, and every time I do an interview, I get some sort of validation. And when you said legacy, I was like, oh man, he's about to do it. He's about to do it. He's about to say it. I appreciate that, because with podcasting and interviewing, it's the fact that you're surrounded and have an intimate conversation with someone who thinks like you. Outside the box, long term, just general embetterment of everyone around you.
Right.
Just being selfless and just this is how I'm going to serve my people. Right. And I appreciate that. So allow me to give those flowers back to you and tell you that it's refreshing to see someone doing the same.
No, I appreciate it.
It makes me feel like I'm not crazy sometimes.
No, you're not crazy.
All right. So my last question, it's my favorite, because if anyone listened to an interview I've done, I always say this. I dedicate this question to the people listening.
Okay.
That person that's thinking about stepping out on their own. That is the scariest thing you can do.
Yeah.
It is. To take something that you hold dear, that you are passionate about, and say, okay, world, I'm venturing into this. I'm putting my time and effort into this. Will you support me? That is a scary thing, but the experience you get with it is worthwhile. Everything you learn, the smiles, the backpacks, everything is worth it. So I'm asking you, what words of encouragement would you have for someone who's just starting out on their own venture, or their own ideals, or maybe a new way of life? Just what would you say to them?
Never let anybody tell you that you can't. If you accept the reality that you can't do it, you won't do it. Period. You know, I was told that I couldn't do a lot of stuff. I'm not talking about professionally, I'm talking about personally. And I took it to heart. It is the reason that I am so focused on everything that I do. And I feel like had those people not doubted me, then I wouldn't have worked as hard to get where I am right now. You know, best thing that anybody could ever told me was that I couldn't do something. But the worst thing I could have ever done was listen to them. That's it. You know, if you want to do something, do it. Don't let anybody hold you back from that. I don't care how weird or how unethical, well, not unethical, but unorthodox is really the word I'm looking for. Do it ethically.
I was about to say,
no, do it ethically. Do it ethically. But no matter how unorthodox or how different it may be, do it. If you like something, pursue it. Just go for it. Because if you, I'm laughing at the ethical thing. If you love it, then odds are somebody's gonna love it too. You know, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because for every person that you feel like, oh man, they're gonna look at me crazy, you got other people going, I wish I was that brave to be looked at that crazy.
Right.
So do you. That's that. To make it simple, do you. You know, if it makes you happy and you feel like it's something that you're gonna be good at or something that you love to do you. That's it.
Bro, I appreciate you coming.
Hey man, appreciate you. It's been a pleasure.
I feel like this is going to make a change in someone's life. I really do. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, whether it be about Merciless Minds, Power Lines Poetry, or just want to talk to you and chit chat, because I'll be candid. Before we had this interview, I reached out to you about your haiku, and I told you I appreciate that you're bringing some of the topics to the forefront that you do. So for those of people, because like you said, for one person that speaks, it's probably a million more behind it. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, how could they do that?
Easiest way, MrEverlasting.com. MrEverlasting.com. It's got links to all my social media. So you can literally go to that one website, follow my Facebook, Instagram, Twitters, Snapchats, whatever the case may be. It's Official Eternity on Instagram, ETERNITI for those that are listening. DeAndre Buck on Facebook. I got 20 million friends that my inbox is always open. I tell people that all the time. I met a young lady the other day that said she was like, when she first met me, she thought I was like mean or stuck up, and I was just like, was I working? She was like, yeah. I was like, I was focused.
Right.
You know, I promise I'm approachable. Don't feel like you can't approach me. I'm very approachable. I talk to anybody about anything. As you can see from this podcast and this interview, I like to talk. So, but yeah, Official Eternity, PowerLinesPoetry.com to stay up to date for everything Power Lines has going on. MrEverlasting.com, and just hit me up. Let's talk. Let's chat. Let's work.
All right,
man.
Now make sure to include all of those links on this YouTube video if you're watching it. If you're listening to it on SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you'll find the link in the description below. Go there, show them some love, leave your thoughts. And again, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
All right, we're going.